On a dusty Mesopotamian plain, around 2500 BCE, the armies of Lagash and Umma crash together, Sumerian infantry bristling with spears and shields as the first recorded war unfolds. At their head rides Eannatum of Lagash, leading his ranks of soldiers in conical helmets and long spears, determined to drive Umma back from the disputed land. The Lagash infantry advances in a tight phalanx, large rectangular shields overlapping to form a living wall, bronze spearheads pushing relentlessly forward. Near the life-giving irrigation canals, the two Sumerian armies clash, dust and screams rising together as men fight for control of water and fertile soil. From the side, we see the discipline of Lagash's soldiers, spears angled forward in perfect formation as they march through the harsh Mesopotamian landscape at sunset. From above, the battlefield reveals its full scale. Two dense blocks of infantry colliding, standards with cuneiform signs marking each city-state's proud identity. With a shout, Lagash's infantry charges the Umma lines, shields raised, spears leveled, captured in a sweeping cinematic moment of ancient violence. Officers stride along the line, shouting commands over the roar of battle, their copper helmets flashing as they struggle to keep order amid the chaos. Along the front moves an early war chariot, drawn by onagers, rolling over the packed earth as Sumerian soldiers close around it, using every advantage they have. As the dust briefly clears, scattered shields and spears litter the ground, while the standard of Lagash still flies in the distance, a sign that their line holds, for now.
1 to 60. Politics, Religion, and Treaties. Inside a grand hall in Lagash's palace, Eannatum leans over a clay map with his generals, planning how to secure Guadina once and for all. In the temple, a priest blesses the weapons of Lagash's soldiers, incense smoke curling around spears and helmets as divine favor is invoked. In Umma's council chamber, leaders anxiously debate whether to break the old boundary treaty and risk war against their powerful neighbor. After defeat, the king of Umma kneels before Eannatum in a temple, swearing a solemn oath at a boundary stele that he will not cross Lagash's land again. A clay treaty tablet records the terms in neat cuneiform lines, an early attempt to put war and peace into written law. A Sumerian messenger runs between cities, clutching a clay tablet that carries news and demands about the contested border. Priests of Lagash stand before statues and altars, praying to Ningirsu and other gods to grant victory and punish oathbreakers. An oracle reads omens from a model liver or from the stars, searching for signs of whether the gods approve this coming war. In a scribal school, rows of clay tablets document the history of the conflict, ensuring that Lagash's version of events is the one remembered. Later, a ceremony in Lagash celebrates victory over Umma. Musicians play, banners wave, and citizens cheer their warrior king. 61 to 70. Mobilization, training, and camp life. Sumerian soldiers march out through the gate of Lagash while civilians line the walls, watching their fathers, sons, and brothers go to war. Women and children stand by the city walls, waving and calling out as the army departs, uncertain who will ever return. In a smoky forge, a blacksmith shapes glowing metal into spearheads, then fixes them to wooden shafts with practiced skill. In another workshop, shields are repaired and painted with simple emblems, transforming planks of wood and leather into lifelines. Inside the city, soldiers train tirelessly in formation, practicing shield walls and synchronized spear thrusts until the movements are automatic. At the supply depot, a quartermaster hands out rations and water jars, making sure every man has enough to march and fight. Pack donkeys loaded with food, water, and equipment trudge along behind the troops, leaving a trail of dust between city and battlefield. In the evening, the Sumerian camp is laid out in neat rows of tents and fires, where soldiers eat, talk, and rest before the storm. A simple field altar stands at the edge of the camp, where a priest offers bread and drink to the gods in exchange for protection. Some soldiers sit quietly, pressing hurried messages into clay tablets for their families, speaking through cuneiform in case they never return. 71 to 80. Tactical moments of the battle and its end. Through reeds along an irrigation canal, we glimpse a distant view of the battlefield, where the two armies finally meet in deadly earnest. A Sumerian soldier wades through shallow canal water, shield strapped to his back, trying to outflank the enemy line. Lagash troops crouch behind a low mud-brick embankment, bracing their spears as arrows arc toward them from Uma's archers. On the horizon, a massive dust cloud rises from marching armies, an ominous sign that battle is inevitable. Two Sumerian standards stand facing each other across a narrow strip of empty land, the silent space soon to be filled with bloodshed. In the heat of combat, Lagash soldiers capture the enemy banner of Uma and raise it as a trophy, shouting in triumph. Behind the front lines, field medics tend to wounded soldiers, binding injuries and trying to save lives with the simplest of tools. From a small hill, we get a high vantage point overlooking the entire engagement, the strategy and sacrifice visible in one sweeping view. As the sun sets, long shadows stretch across abandoned spears and helmets, the battlefield finally growing quiet. Vultures circle above the silent ground, distant city walls barely visible on the horizon, nature's cold reminder of the cost of war. 81 to 90. How Lagash chose to remember the war. In Lagash, a grand monument is built to commemorate victory over Uma, its carved scenes turning war into proud public memory. Inside a stone carving workshop, an artist chisels battle scenes into slabs under royal supervision, transforming orders into enduring images. A clay tablet covered in dense cuneiform lines preserves a detailed chronicle of the Lagash-Uma conflict. In the city square, a priest or scribe reads the victory inscription aloud to gathered citizens, reinforcing the official story of the war. At night, children sit by the fire, listening as elders retell the great war against Uma, myth and memory mixing together. A royal procession carries the stele of the vultures through the streets to its resting place, accompanied by music and ceremony. In a temple courtyard, the stele stands among other sacred stones, a constant reminder that the gods supposedly favored Lagash's cause. Somewhere inside a quiet room, a musician composes a song about Eonatum's victory, turning history into music and legend. A stone carver leans close to add final cuneiform signs to a victory stele, every stroke fixing Lagash's version of events in stone. A decorative relief panel shows endless rows of carved Sumerian warriors marching in unison, the idealized image of order and power. 91 to 100. How we study and imagine this war today. In a modern museum gallery, artifacts from Lagash and Uma sit in glass cases, part of an exhibition on the world's first recorded war. An educational poster breaks down the conflict with labeled diagrams, dates, and images of the stele of the vultures for students to study. In a classroom, a teacher points to a map and images of Lagash and Uma, explaining how land and water disputes once sparked entire wars. A split-screen image compares modern soldiers with ancient Sumerian warriors, showing what has changed in warfare and what has not. On a computer screen, a digital 3D model reconstructs the Lagash-Uma battlefield, allowing us to explore terrain and troop movements virtually. Animated storyboard frames sketch out key moments of the first recorded war, from dispute over land to the carving of the stele. A dramatic book cover reads, "The First Recorded War, Lagash versus Uma," inviting readers into this distant but strangely familiar story. A timeline graphic places the Lagash-Uma conflict within early Mesopotamian history, long before empires like Babylon and Assyria rose. Finally, an epic poster-style image shows Eonatum, his army, and the steel of the vultures behind him. One man, one city-state, and one war that became the first we ever wrote down.